Maybe next you could read something?
Sure.
What are you going to read?
Maybe the first 2 chapters. Chapter 1, Moving as a Massive. 3 boys drive and dream of an impossible night on an endless street. Moving as a massive through mad sticky traffic. Destination, where else? Manchester, Winslow Road, the Curry Mile, yo. That shisha haze mecca of mischief and magic. A genital Firdaus of kebab houses and jalebi bars. Oi, oi, oi. Close up, driver's seat, here's Imi, 22. Something of a bad boy Muslim slut who don't never text back. Right now, simmering in an ice-white bimmer, eyes off the road and that. He moves all coquettish, can't help it. One-handedly handling the steering wheel, while simultaneously flinging whoop-woos straight towards Galdem Sugars ambling by. Oi, what you girls saying? Gonna distract me from all my problems tonight or what? Eyes roll and noses scrunch, advances left adrift on blue ticks. But Imi don't care. Chuckling, he leans back, whooping and gun saluting, content in a way he hadn't anticipated that spiky morning of. Okay, take us up the back streets for the drop-off. Whip pan front passenger seat, this is Khan, 23. The mogul Mowgli himself, some Cambridge-educated packy, suited and Gucci-booted, the type to recite Warren Buffett epigrams like their hadiths. Fiendishly long fingers at this very moment engaged in a pinching watts across half-loaded Google Maps, attempting to locate a skinny white boy about shifting some debt. And for the last time, yard, can we switch up these tunes, he commands, Tory twats and dissolving into something just that little bit more upner. Imi sighs, this shit always used to happen, fam. All the Rami tunes he so expertly chosen for the night ahead, replaced with crass mumbo-jumbo. Still, he hands his phone to Khan sans protest, thinking like, ain't really worth the argument either way. Meanwhile, quick cut to Harris, 23. The leg-quivering brother in the backseat, all the rubescent neon of the Curry Mile refracting abrasively around his dog-mad eyes, pupils swirling and twirling like a washing machine filled with blood. As Imi whoop-woos and Khan Spotify shuffles, going from Nusrat to Gets to Mets and Tricks, Harris chews a harmonica solo into his fingernails, his being a mind that never switches off, philosophy subreddits doing bears. He's wandering, thinking, worrying about the many possibilities a night like tonight might just hold for 3 brown boys such as themselves. Heralding from such humble beginnings, right now cruising and bruising in a hire car towards what might just be the natural elastic endpoint of a friendship already beginning to fray. It strikes me, boys, Harris starts, whilst the beginning of any given evening is broad-stoked in its endless possibilities, as time ticks on, our choices become more and more closed off. He pauses somewhat dramatically to swallow a wad of saliva. With each second we're alive, why, we become less free. And though he laughs Harris's words off here, it's the memory of this auspicious utterance that will, hours from now, in the moment before car bonnet hits brick, send a shiver down Imi's spine. The truth of the statement, or the earnestness in which it was delivered, or possibly even just the squeeze of the seatbelt, will shatter his heart and ribs with a searing pain so chasmic, it will thereafter shimmer in reverse, winding the whole way back to the point of his conception. But right now, right here, early evening, as ginger highlights begin to bleed through the topaz dome above, and amongst 100 other boys, Imi, Khan and Harris crawl towards Manchester's Curry Mile like Asian moths to a shisha flame. Heads bop, whistles wolf, spliff spark. And like an industrious horse, she opens herself up to them all, sensing, in her own conspiring, whiling way, that each unknowingly drags with him heavy pasts and heavier futures. The bimmer skirts to a stop, red light ones. Khan finally settles on a song. Jazzy B's Dillutia, a track so preggers with fury and passion, it forces even the laziest of uncles up off their arses to screw light bulbs with the best of them. But in the scarlet haze of the traffic lights, Imi, Khan and Harris foolishly allow the conversation to fade out, nodding now entirely to different refrains booming about their minds. Imi's like, it's all over, it's all over, it's all over, but what's he going to do about it? Khan's like, it's just a bit of cash, just a bit of cash, it's just a bit of cash, but will he ever be square? And Harris is like, today's the day I do it, today's the day I do it, today's the day I do it, but won't it break our heart? And then, under the horizon of a winking Maghrib, red becomes green and verse becomes chorus. Thoughts fade, tires burn, and the bimmer vroom vrooms away. The Curry Mile and the boys' final night together awaits. Chapter 2, The Homeless Man. But before everything else, the stolen cans, the DJ turned to chutney, the reclamation march, still on their way to Khan's enigmatic pickup point, the boys find themselves trapped in turtle traffic. They're in some snow cone M3 straight from 91, driven directly from one of them cheap as fuck hire places that don't even give you no insurance. One of them where the aircon ain't even working, the man them inside just too perilously stubborn about their garms to do anything about it. Right now, dripping into the steering wheel, we got Immy in velour trackies, 3 stripes and fully zipped up. Beside him, there's Khan shuffling around in a North Face Gucci piece that cost him so much peas, he ain't never shrugging it off. And then, still gawping out the rear window, there's Harris with his crisscross legs covered with striped corduroy. This brother all about that casual GQ vibe. Spotless rings draped like miniskirts across his many tremulous fingers. Yeah, man, it's hot in this bimmer, bruv, and ain't no one gonna do the right thing. Open a window, let some air into the vehicle. Not now. Not when there's, just outside, a homeless man tapping a family of smudged ovals right into the glass. Khan kissing his teeth. Dirty geezer, man. What's he playing at? Immy blowing upwards, a makeshift fan. He'll pass fam, allow him. Harris frantically reaching into his back pocket. Now wait, I got change, let me... Window down. A breeze that takes charge. Sighs of relief. Khan rolls his eyes as Harris extends a fistful of clinking copper. But this serves only to aggravate the homeless man, who shakes his head. His twitchy beard, dyed red with henna, swarms with samosa flakes. Eyes dripping rivers of... Khan, sighing, reaching back, taking the change from his palm, and then zipping down his own window, flittering it more forcefully into the face of the figure outside. Yo, you want it or what? The homeless man surveys his audience, the quivering doormat in the corner, the depressive philanderer by the wheel. But it's Khan he has his ruby rabbit eyes on. He clears his throat, an eruption of polluted phlegm. Homeless man, you mistake me, my child, for I have something to give to you. For Khan, it's like, yo, what? Eyes inflating with surprise, even the sweat on his brow retreating in panic. What could this packy wino have to give him? Homeless man, the mother and the brother and all the money in the world now to really move someplace new. He croaks, leaning in, tormented fists like squished Mars bars laying to rest upon the bimmer's open window ledge, staring straight into Khan, into all his soul. Homeless man, you must first read up on your history. You must... Khan, hey, bruv, this ain't the day, fam. I got shit to be getting on with, you get me? Homeless man, my child, you must know about the betrayals actioned against your prophet as he lay upon his deathbed. The fact that a Sufi Freemason founded the Nazi party. The context behind Tipu Sultan's invention of the missile. You must reckon with the fact that it was the Portuguese who brought chilies to India, that the first brown woman in space died upon re-entry, and how before her, Walada walked naked the streets of Spain with her head held high. Behind them, motors beep, vehicles squeak. Khan clicks his fingers. Got a strict schedule out here, yo. Traffic should be moving on, but... Homeless man, my boy, you must read about the vegan mystic Al-Mahari, and then the parable of Toba Singh. You must inquire about the women missing from your own family tree. Their legacies no more than passed down recipes. And remember always that you carry right now more on your person than they ever did their whole lives. All those who came before. What are we without our myths? Why you and not him? True, I remember my own brother was slaughtered before my eyes by a massive maniacs who left me at the age of 10 struggling to breathe under a stream of the recently deceased, stuck on a train with my chest so compressed I might well have died. I chewed myself into imprisonment upon this perfidious island, whereupon... Beep, beep, beep. Khan, looking at his phone. Okay, appreciate the chat, G, but we need to bounce still. I'm not trying to be late. Homeless man, nodding, leaning in, way in with hot breath. Just know this, young sir. You cannot know where you are going until you have understood where you have been. What is it your Quran says? He licks his lips, eyes twinkling in Jalfrezi glaze. Homeless man, why, of course, that every soul shall taste death. The boys glance at each other. Windows up, wheel spin, and off they go.
Oh, Sufiyaan is so good. Woo! Oh, I love it. I love that opening chapter as well, where you have the shimmer in reverse and this like prophetic moment that they're kind of caught in motion, but also like we talked about destiny earlier, and they're caught on the way to trying to ride to their destiny. I love it.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Is the first chapter one of the ones that you edited the most, or is that something that you wrote and it just felt perfect the first time you did it?
It's sort of untouched mostly since, at least what I submitted to the Murky Books Prize, beyond like certain word choices and so on. I've actually got, I put on my Instagram post when the book came out, because I started writing it actually in the Whitworth Gallery in Manchester on paper, just the first chapter. So I have the very first draft of this, at least the first couple of pages. And it's funny, the energy was always there. There's like a lot of word choices have changed and it's become way better, but it always began with three boys drive and dream. And I think the very first draft was three boys drive and dream on an endless night on an endless street. And obviously I changed that to be better, but it's actually basically been intact since then. So yeah, it just kind of came out. And again, doing that on paper was really useful as well. I feel like a lot of this I typed, but I needed to find the energy on paper first with a pen where you could smudge and cross stuff out and just like, I think it comes from a different place when you're doing it on paper.
And those first two lines are very Shakespearean in rhythm. I love them. I think there's some writing, I don't know if you feel like this, when you sit down and it has an energy or an electricity that just like flows through you, that it's kind of perfect first time. And that's the writing that when I read it aloud, I feel really proud of. And then there's other stuff that I really labor over that never feels the same. It's so hard to capture that feeling.
I think that's like a lot of this book was trying to capture, I think, the energy I'd come up with the first chapter and also trying to explore it in different ways. But some of it just came, like a lot of, especially part 4 of this book. One, I was racing against my deadline, but it's just where it was coming from and sort of the energy of it naturally just came very quickly. I think a lot of the middle sections of the book was where I was like, man, I really got to try and tap into this energy. And like it was laboring over things and ripping 20,000 word diversion where I was like, this is not good and I've got to do something about it and make the guys do something. Sometimes just following the characters. But yeah, man, some of this is super labored over. I mean, the whole thing is, but some of it was just easier on the first go and some of it wasn't. But ultimately, the whole thing is like, I hopefully you can tell when you read it, I've like, the work has been done. You know, I was like laboring over every sentence and every word and punctuation stuff. It's like some people notice this stuff and I like care about that. Like Scorsese does a thing with his movies, they call it method dressing, where like say it's in a restaurant and we're only seeing one side, he'll want the other side to look like a restaurant and he'll want there to be dust in places the camera's never going to see, because you just feel the energy when if you're an actor and you're sat there and it feels like a real place, your performance is just going to be better, right? There's just certain details that everyone knows what like a great movie or a scene in a book is versus like one that isn't, and it's usually like the amount of work or effort someone's put into it. Like every corner for me has to be like, it's like no stone unturned.
I love hearing about the effort you put in because your writing feels so effortless to me, but maybe that's actually part of the work and the labor, right? Something I find really cool about writing is the ability to like shapeshift and be all these different people. And I'm just thinking like when you're reading the homeless man character and some of these things he says, like I love it when he says, what are we without our myths? And then later says, you know, to know where we're going, we have to know where we're from. So you wrote that. So all of that wisdom like is in you. Do you think you're a wise person?
Man, like, yeah, I mean, I guess everyone's got some sort of wisdom. Characters can be smarter than you because he just said that like that, whereas I did reading and so on. I labored over his speech for months, you know, or like over years. But for me anyway, when I'm writing, I am acting out these characters and I'm like really tapping into them in a way, which means when the characters are going through trouble, like I'm just like in a way worse. I'll just be in a way worse place personally, or I have to do, you know, you have to do things like meditate or whatever to sort of, you know, I'm like real, you know, when you hear these method actors talking, I'm like, I guess we're doing the exact same thing, you know. A lot of the first part of this book is the boys figuring out what their night's going to be. And I realized listening back to the audiobook, oh yeah, it's me figuring out what the book's going to be. And even the thing of to know where we're going, we need to know where we've come from. That whole bit is steeped in traditional British Asian or like Islamic stories or like more niche ones like the Tipu Sultan's more known. He's, you know, you have to understand why did he invent missiles? Well, because the British invaded India, right? And you know, Walada in Spain, you know, it's tapping into the tradition of what Islamic Spain was. You know, Islam in the West was very different to maybe what a lot of people's vision of like Islam is, and the idea of partition, which again is a historical period that hangs over my life and hangs over these characters, but in a way that hopefully is, for me, I like the idea of a reader if you don't know who Tipu Sultan is, you can like Google him if you're interested. Or like Toba Singh is a short story by Manto that you can read. It's like great. And if you're not, then it's just texture that feels real. And I like being able to, there's like, it's dense with stuff. Not that I'm comparing myself to him, but Thomas Pynchon's Gravity's Rainbow, where they said every sentence is a thesis. And I'm not saying that this is what this book is, but it's what I aspire to. Is you probably can get like a lot out of just random references I put in there, because it's fun for me, and I was constantly learning stuff as I was writing this. And also, it's just nice to give readers something to take away as well.
Yeah, it's a treasure trove. To be able to hide all of these little things within your writing is really special. I suppose so much of the book is also about like direction. I think each of the three men feel like there's a lot of pressure on them outwardly of where they should be heading, whether that's like in a relationship or with the kind of work that they do or with their own like creativity or friendships. And they're all at this threshold of like, am I going to follow that, or am I going to like choose my own path? So it's interesting hearing you talking about like what their night's going to be, but it's also like you zoom out and it's like, what's their life going to be?
They're at an age where, they're basically, one of them's about to get married. One of them's about to move to London for this new job. Part of the synopsis is they don't know this might be their final night together, which obviously has kind of sad undertones potentially. But also it's just like, they're never going to be, they're not like boys anymore, and their lives are literally, if nothing happened, if this is the most smooth night where there's no obstacles or drama, the fact is it will be their last night like this, because they're all about to change in like a huge way. It's this thing of like, these guys are figuring out who they are. You're doing coming of age stuff, but also like we're in a period where the country we live in is figuring out what it is and what it's standing. What is Britain going to look like in 10 years? It could be incredible, could not be, like we're in this real period of instability in a way that for me is either very scary or like reason to be hopeful. I think it's true of the world in general, right? We're in a period in an era that is still figuring out what it actually is. So for me, it's like just tap into all that and put it into these guys, except the lens is they're on a fun night out. They don't know what they're doing exactly, apart from, it'd be cool to eat at some point. It'd be cool to go to this place at some point and blah, blah, blah.
And both your film and the book kind of touch on both of those questions and like coming of age stories. Do you think you'll do another coming of age story, or do you feel like you're in a different place in your life? Because I suppose from the outside, to me, you've moved to London now, you have a partner, you're settled. Are you still asking those own questions in your life, or do you feel like you know who you are?
I'm drawn to the coming of age thing because it's just I mean, you can also, I guess you can come of age at any age in a weird way. Yeah, I guess I wouldn't rule it out. Yeah, it is funny though, being, I was these characters' age when I started writing this, and now I'm not. There's this weird thing of, I kind of like, I probably wouldn't, if I was these guys, I'd be acting very differently, like, I would have always, because, these guys kind of get into all sorts of drama to make the book entertaining. I'm not super interested in also just all of the stuff I put out there being super navel gazing as well. Like everything's going to come from my mind and things I'm interested in and so on. But I feel like I'd have stuff to say about teenagers or whatever, and also different, like a coming of age story set in the early 20th century, I think would be super fun to write, or like in whatever period. So I think it's like, I just like it as a framing device.
You didn't answer whether you feel like you know who you are yet.
I feel like I've always had a pretty strong sense of self, or like who I am. Even, I can track back, like when I was in high school, for example, there's always been like a contrarian streak in me, or like a wanting to do things my own way. Anyway, it's probably really annoying for teachers or like friends or whatever. But weirdly, I don't know how much I've had like struggles with trying to figure out who I am and who I could be and so on. But I feel pretty, like the sense of self is pretty stable. I learned this in a video game, but everything's constantly in a process of changing, of becoming something else. I was more emotionally vulnerable at certain things as I was writing this, and now I feel like I'm not. I don't know what I learned from writing this beyond, I just learned how to write a novel. But you sort of come away from it, or you'll have interviews where people ask me, what can men do or whatever. So I don't know, man. I'm still like trying to figure that stuff out myself. There's all sorts of things that you still repress. So maybe I should read the book and try and learn from it.
Well, novels are questions rather than statements. So I think that's difficult when someone then wants you to like write a short piece in a newspaper and be like, what should men do about talking to each other? How can we fight the loneliness epidemic with men? It's really tough when people then want you to be a spokesperson, when really writing a novel is like asking people to explore a question.
Especially when there's just so few British Pakistani like male novelists, especially literary fiction. So you become it's just like even more than normal, I guess. You just become sort of seen as a spokesman. Which, look, if it gives me like a Wikipedia page and money, then cool. But also, like, I'm obviously not trying to be a spokesman. But also, I choose fiction because I don't have, there's a Kanye bit of like, you don't have the answers, Sway. I'll just have questions, and observations, but I don't have answers. I think there's answers you can get from the book, right? But and conclusions I've come to in like ways I think it's interesting to live or like deal with. The book deals with rage and justice and all these sorts of things. But yeah, I'm more interested in dealing with stuff in fiction and also writing characters who I don't have to agree with them or like them. I mean, I think you always on some level have to be like just embody them. But it's super interesting writing characters who have different political beliefs to me, for example, or whatever it is. Morality is different to me. I like being able to tap into that stuff. And so, really the book is a collection of just things I guess I've experienced or imagined or like thought about the world. But yeah, always presented as questions and like, let's try and show different dimensions. As I say, I don't have the answers.
Thank you.